When I, Margaret Anderson, married John 60 years ago, I never imagined that the day would come when I would have to make such a difficult decision. We lived in Willow Creek, Ohio, a small town where everyone knew each other. Our life was tranquil, and our days were filled with walks in the park and coffee on the porch of our Victorian house. It was a picturesque existence, the kind you might read about in a novel or see in an old movie. Our neighbors often commented on how we seemed like the perfect couple, always together, always smiling. But, as I would come to learn, appearances can be deceiving. One morning, as we sat in our sunlit kitchen, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee filling the air, I looked across the table at John. He was buried in his newspaper, as usual, a habit he had maintained for as long as I could remember. But this morning was different. I had something weighing heavily on my mind, something I could no longer ignore. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves. "John, we need to talk," I said, my voice trembling slightly. He looked up from his paper, his brow furrowed with curiosity and a hint of apprehension. "About what, dear?" he asked, his tone gentle yet cautious. I exhaled slowly, gathering my thoughts. "I think it's time for us to go our separate ways." The shock in his eyes was palpable. For a moment, he was speechless, his mouth opening and closing as if searching for words that wouldn't come. Finally, he managed to speak. "Margaret, what are you talking about? We've been together for 60 years. Why now?" I could see the hurt and confusion in his eyes, and it pained me to be the cause of it. But I knew this conversation was long overdue. "John, I found something," I began, my voice barely above a whisper. Something that made me question everything. I reached into the drawer of the kitchen table and pulled out an old, yellowed letter. The paper was fragile, the ink faded with age. I handed it to him, watching as he unfolded it with trembling hands. As he read, I saw a myriad of emotions cross his face: surprise, recognition, and finally, a deep, abiding sorrow. "Eleanor," he whispered, the name hanging in the air like a ghost from the past. "Who is she, John?" I asked, my voice breaking. "Why did you never tell me about her?" He looked up at me, tears welling in his eyes. "Margaret, Eleanor was someone I loved before I met you. She died in a car accident just a few months before our wedding. This letter, it was my way of saying goodbye to her. I never meant for you to find it." I felt a pang of sympathy for him, but also a deep sense of betrayal. "Why did you keep it all these years? Why didn't you tell me?" "I was afraid," he admitted. "Afraid that you would think I didn't love you, that you were just a second choice. But Margaret, you have to believe me, you were never a second choice. I loved you then, and I love you now." His words were sincere, but the pain of his secret was too much to bear. "John, I don't know if I can continue living with this. For 60 years, I thought I knew everything about you, but now I realize there was a part of you that you kept hidden from me." We sat in silence for what felt like an eternity, the weight of the past pressing down on us. Finally, John spoke. "Margaret, I understand if you need time. I understand if you need space. But please, don't let this be the end of us." I looked at him, the man I had loved for so many years, and felt a deep sadness. "I need to think, John. I need to figure out what this means for us." In the days that followed, I found myself reflecting on our life together. There were so many happy memories, so many moments of joy and laughter. But now, they were tinged with the shadow of this secret. I sought solace in our daughter, Emily, who was dealing with her own struggles. Her relationship with Mark was on shaky ground, and she was torn between following him to a new city or staying to support us. Emily introduced me to Sarah, a therapist she had been seeing. Sarah, as it turned out, had known Eleanor. They had been childhood friends, and Sarah had stories about Eleanor that painted a picture of a vibrant, passionate woman. Through our conversations, I began to understand more about the woman who had captured John's heart before me. Meanwhile, our grandson Michael was uncovering his own mystery. He had found Eleanor's old diaries and documents, which revealed that she had been working on a groundbreaking scientific project before her death. Michael's investigation led him to believe that Eleanor's work had been far more significant than anyone had realized, and he felt compelled to continue her research in her memory. As I grappled with my own emotions, I couldn't help but admire Michael's dedication. His determination to honor Eleanor's legacy gave me a new perspective on the past. Perhaps, I thought, there was a way to reconcile the love John and I had shared with the truth of his past. One evening, as the sun set over Willow Creek, John and I sat on our porch, the silence between us filled with unspoken words. Finally, I broke the silence. "John, I've been thinking a lot about us, about Eleanor, about everything." He looked at me, his eyes filled with a mixture of hope and fear. "And? I don't know what the future holds," I said slowly. "But I do know that I still love you. And I believe that we can find a way to move forward together." The relief on his face was evident, and for the first time in days, I saw a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "Margaret, I promise you, I'll do whatever it takes to make this right." As we sat there, hand in hand, I realized that while the past could never be changed, the future was still ours to shape. Our journey was far from over, and though it would be filled with challenges, I knew that we had the strength to face them together. In the end, it wasn't about erasing the past, but about embracing it, understanding it, and finding a way to move forward with love and forgiveness. And as the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, I felt a sense of peace, knowing that we would face whatever came our way, side by side. When we announced our divorce to family and friends, everyone was perplexed. How could I explain that, after 60 years of marriage, I had discovered a secret that shattered my trust in John? Everything began when I found an old letter in the attic, written by John to a woman named Eleanor, dated 1958. I had never known of Eleanor's existence, and this discovery deeply unsettled me. I confronted John about the letter, and he revealed that Eleanor was a past love, someone he never had the courage to tell me about. She had died in a car accident just a few months before we got married, and the letter was a farewell he never managed to send. Knowing this left me torn between sadness and relief, but I still questioned whether I could continue living with someone who had kept such a significant secret for so long. The days following the revelation were a blur of emotions. I felt betrayed, confused, and heartbroken. I had always believed that John and I shared everything, that there were no hidden corners in our relationship. But now, I realized that there was a part of his past that he had never shared with me, a part that had remained locked away for 6 decades. I spent hours in the attic, going through old boxes and trying to piece together the fragments of John's past. There were photographs of Eleanor, smiling and carefree, her eyes filled with a light that seemed to have dimmed in John's memories. There were letters and mementos, small tokens of a love that had been cut short by tragedy. Each discovery felt like a blow to my heart, a reminder of the life John had lived before me. One evening, as I sat in the attic surrounded by the remnants of John's past, he came up to join me. He sat down beside me, his eyes filled with sorrow and regret. Margaret, he said softly, I never meant for you to find out this way. I never wanted to hurt you. Why didn't you tell me, John? I asked, my voice trembling with emotion. Why did you keep this from me for so long? I was afraid, he admitted. Afraid that you would think I didn't love you, that you were just a replacement for Eleanor. But Margaret, you were never a replacement. I loved you then, and I love you now. His words were sincere, but they did little to ease the pain in my heart. I don't know if I can continue living with this, John, I said, tears streaming down my face. For 60 years, I thought I knew everything about you. But now, I feel like I've been living a lie. John reached out to take my hand, his grip gentle yet firm. Margaret, I understand if you need time. I understand if you need space. But please, don't let this be the end of us. We've built a life together, a life filled with love and happiness. Don't let this one secret destroy everything we've shared. I looked into his eyes, searching for the truth. I need to think, John. I need to figure out what this means for us. In the days that followed, I found myself reflecting on our life together. There were so many happy memories, so many moments of joy and laughter. But now, they were tinged with the shadow of this secret. I sought solace in our daughter, Emily, who was dealing with her own struggles. Her relationship with Mark was on shaky ground, and she was torn between following him to a new city or staying to support us. Emily introduced me to Sarah, a therapist she had been seeing. Sarah, as it turned out, had known Eleanor. They had been childhood friends, and Sarah had stories about Eleanor that painted a picture of a vibrant, passionate woman. Through our conversations, I began to understand more about the woman who had captured John's heart before me. Meanwhile, our grandson Michael was uncovering his own mystery. He had found Eleanor's old diaries and documents, which revealed that she had been working on a groundbreaking scientific project before her death. Michael's investigation led him to believe that Eleanor's work had been far more significant than anyone had realized, and he felt compelled to continue her research in her memory. As I grappled with my own emotions, I couldn't help but admire Michael's dedication. His determination to honor Eleanor's legacy gave me a new perspective on the past. Perhaps, I thought, there was a way to reconcile the love John and I had shared with the truth of his past. One evening, as the sun set over Willow Creek, John and I sat on our porch, the silence between us filled with unspoken words. Finally, I broke the silence. John, I've been thinking a lot about us, about Eleanor, about everything. He looked at me, his eyes filled with a mixture of hope and fear. And? I don't know what the future holds, I said slowly. But I do know that I still love you. And I believe that we can find a way to move forward together. The relief on his face was evident, and for the first time in days, I saw a glimmer of hope in his eyes. Margaret, I promise you, I'll do whatever it takes to make this right. As we sat there, hand in hand, I realized that while the past could never be changed, the future was still ours to shape. Our journey was far from over, and though it would be filled with challenges, I knew that we had the strength to face them together. In the end, it wasn't about erasing the past, but about embracing it, understanding it, and finding a way to move forward with love and forgiveness. And as the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, I felt a sense of peace, knowing that we would face whatever came our way, side by side. Our daughter, Emily, was also going through a difficult time. She was in an unstable relationship with Mark, who was on the verge of quitting his job and moving to another city. Emily was torn between following Mark or staying to support us during the divorce. It was a decision that weighed heavily on her, and I could see the stress and anxiety etched on her face. She had always been the glue that held our family together, and now she was being pulled in different directions, unsure of where her loyalty should lie. In her search for clarity and peace of mind, Emily sought the help of a therapist named Sarah. Sarah was a kind and empathetic woman who had a way of making people feel at ease. During one of their sessions, Emily opened up about the turmoil she was experiencing, not just with Mark, but also with the shocking revelation about her father's past. She spoke about the letter I had found, the secret that had been kept for so long, and the impact it was having on our family. As Emily poured out her heart, Sarah listened intently, her eyes filled with understanding. When Emily mentioned Eleanor, Sarah's expression changed. There was a flicker of recognition, a connection that Emily hadn't anticipated. Sarah leaned forward, her voice soft but steady, and said, "I knew Eleanor. We were childhood friends." Emily was taken aback. The coincidence seemed almost too surreal to be true. She looked at Sarah, her curiosity piqued. "You knew Eleanor? What was she like?" Sarah smiled, a wistful look in her eyes. "Eleanor was one of the most vibrant and passionate people I've ever known. She had a zest for life that was infectious. We grew up together, and she was like a sister to me. Her death was a devastating loss." Emily felt a mix of emotions. On one hand, she was grateful to have found someone who could provide insight into Eleanor's life. On the other hand, it brought the reality of her father's past even closer. "Did you know about my father?" she asked hesitantly. Sarah nodded. "Yes, I knew about John. Eleanor spoke of him often. They were deeply in love, and she was heartbroken when they couldn't be together. But she also admired him for his strength and kindness. She always hoped he would find happiness, even if it wasn't with her." Hearing this, Emily felt a pang of sorrow for both Eleanor and her father. It was a complicated web of emotions, but Sarah's words also brought a sense of clarity. She began to see her father's actions in a different light, understanding the depth of his loss and the reasons behind his secrecy. It didn't excuse the pain it had caused, but it helped her to empathize with him. As their sessions continued, Sarah shared more stories about Eleanor, painting a picture of a woman who had lived a full and meaningful life, despite its tragic end. Emily found solace in these stories, and they helped her to process the whirlwind of emotions she was experiencing. She also began to see the parallels between her own life and Eleanor's. Both women had faced difficult choices, torn between love and duty, between following their hearts and supporting their families. Emily's relationship with Mark was another source of tension. He was determined to leave his job and start anew in a different city, a decision that Emily wasn't entirely comfortable with. She felt a strong sense of responsibility towards us, especially now, as we navigated the complexities of our divorce. She couldn't bear the thought of abandoning us when we needed her most. Yet, she also loved Mark and wanted to support his dreams. In one of their sessions, Sarah gently guided Emily through her conflicting feelings. "Emily, it's important to remember that you can't pour from an empty cup. You need to take care of yourself first before you can take care of others. It's okay to have boundaries and to prioritize your own well-being." These words resonated with Emily. She realized that she had been neglecting her own needs in her efforts to be there for everyone else. It was a pattern she had fallen into over the years, always putting others first. But now, she understood that self-care wasn't selfish, it was necessary. With Sarah's guidance, Emily began to explore her own desires and aspirations. She started to see that she didn't have to choose between Mark and her family, there could be a balance. She could support Mark's decision to move while also being there for us, even if it meant finding creative solutions or making compromises. As Emily navigated her own journey, she also became a source of strength for me. She helped me to see that, despite the pain and betrayal, there was still love and hope. She encouraged me to have open and honest conversations with John, to seek understanding and forgiveness. Her own experiences with Sarah and the insights she gained about Eleanor's life provided a new perspective that was invaluable. Through it all, Emily's relationship with Sarah deepened. They formed a bond that went beyond therapist and client, becoming friends who supported each other through life's challenges. Sarah's connection to Eleanor added an unexpected layer to their relationship, one that brought both comfort and complexity. In the end, Emily's journey was one of self-discovery and growth. She learned to navigate the delicate balance between love and duty, to prioritize her own well-being, and to find strength in vulnerability. Her experiences with Sarah and the stories of Eleanor's life provided a roadmap for her own path, guiding her through the difficult decisions she faced. As for me, Emily's strength and resilience became a beacon of hope. Her journey reminded me that even in the midst of pain and uncertainty, there is always room for growth and healing. Her connection with Sarah and the insights she gained about Eleanor helped me to see that our past, no matter how painful, doesn't have to define our future. There is always a way forward, a way to find peace and understanding, even in the most challenging of circumstances. Our grandson, Michael, was deeply engrossed in unraveling a mystery that had long been buried in our town. It all began when he stumbled upon some old diaries and documents while helping us clear out the attic. These papers belonged to Eleanor, a woman whose name had suddenly become a linchpin in our family's unfolding narrative. As Michael delved into the yellowed pages and faded ink, he discovered that Eleanor had been involved in a secret scientific research project before her untimely death. The more he read, the more he realized that her work was not just significant but potentially revolutionary. Michael, being the curious and determined young man he was, couldn't let this discovery go. He began to piece together the fragments of Eleanor's research, driven by a mix of intellectual curiosity and a desire to understand the hidden layers of our family's past. The diaries were filled with intricate notes, sketches, and calculations, hinting at a groundbreaking scientific breakthrough that Eleanor had been on the verge of achieving. But the project was abruptly halted by her tragic accident, leaving many questions unanswered. As he sifted through the documents, Michael shared his findings with his close friends, who were equally intrigued by the mystery. Their conversations late into the night added an element of suspense and excitement to the story. They speculated about the nature of Eleanor's research, trying to decipher the complex scientific jargon and connect the dots. The more they uncovered, the more they realized that Eleanor's work had the potential to change the course of scientific history. One evening, Michael came across a particularly cryptic entry in Eleanor's diary. It hinted at a breakthrough that could have profound implications, but the details were frustratingly vague. The entry ended abruptly, as if Eleanor had been interrupted while writing. This discovery fueled Michael's determination to find out more. He began to wonder if Eleanor's death was truly an accident or if there was something more sinister at play. Driven by this newfound sense of purpose, Michael decided to dig deeper. He visited the local library, poring over old newspapers and archives, looking for any mention of Eleanor's work or her accident. He spoke to longtime residents of the town, hoping to find someone who might remember Eleanor and her research. Each conversation, each piece of information, added another layer to the puzzle. One day, Michael's persistence paid off. He found an article in an old newspaper that mentioned a controversial scientific project being conducted in Willow Creek around the time of Eleanor's death. The project was shrouded in secrecy, and there were rumors of powerful interests trying to suppress it. The article didn't mention Eleanor by name, but the timeline and details matched what Michael had found in her diaries. This revelation sent a chill down Michael's spine. He realized that Eleanor's research might have threatened powerful people or organizations, and her death could have been more than just a tragic accident. The possibility that Eleanor had been silenced for her work added a new dimension to the mystery. Michael felt a mix of fear and excitement as he considered the implications. With this new information, Michael reached out to his friends once more. They gathered in his basement, surrounded by the documents and diaries, and discussed their next steps. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation and suspense. They decided to follow the leads they had uncovered, even if it meant confronting uncomfortable truths. As they delved further, they uncovered more details about Eleanor's research. It became clear that she had been working on a project that could revolutionize energy production, something that would have had far-reaching consequences. The potential impact of her work made it all the more plausible that someone might have wanted to stop her. Michael's journey took him to unexpected places. He traveled to nearby cities, met with scientists who had worked with Eleanor, and even managed to track down some of her old colleagues. Each encounter provided new insights and added pieces to the puzzle. He learned about the challenges Eleanor had faced, the obstacles she had overcome, and the passion that had driven her. Through it all, Michael couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. There were moments when he felt a presence, a shadow lurking just out of sight. He dismissed it at first, attributing it to his overactive imagination. But as he got closer to the truth, the feeling grew stronger. He began to wonder if someone was trying to keep him from uncovering what had really happened to Eleanor. Despite the risks, Michael pressed on. He felt a deep sense of responsibility to honor Eleanor's legacy and to bring her work to light. He knew that the answers he sought could have a profound impact, not just on our family, but on the world. The weight of this realization only strengthened his resolve. In the end, Michael's investigation led him to a startling conclusion. He uncovered evidence that Eleanor's death had indeed been orchestrated to prevent her from completing her research. The people involved had gone to great lengths to cover their tracks, but Michael's tenacity had paid off. He had the proof he needed to expose the truth. With this knowledge, Michael faced a difficult choice. He could go public with his findings, risking his own safety and potentially putting our family in danger, or he could keep the information to himself, preserving the status quo. It was a decision that weighed heavily on him, one that required careful consideration. In a final conversation with his friends, Michael laid out the facts. They discussed the potential consequences and the moral implications of their choices. It was a tense and emotional discussion, but in the end, they agreed that the truth needed to be told. Eleanor's work was too important to remain hidden, and her legacy deserved to be honored. Michael's journey had been long and arduous, filled with twists and turns, but it had brought him to a place of clarity and purpose. He knew that the road ahead would be challenging, but he was ready to face whatever came next. With the support of his friends and family, he prepared to take the next step, determined to see Eleanor's work come to fruition and to ensure that her sacrifice had not been in vain. The moment of greatest tension came when I decided to confront John with all the information I had discovered. We had a dramatic verbal confrontation in the living room where all the repressed emotions came to the surface. John finally admitted that he had never gotten over the loss of Eleanor, and I confessed that I had always felt there was something between us that I could never quite understand. Our voices echoed through the room, each word carrying the weight of decades of unspoken pain and confusion. John's face, usually so composed, was etched with lines of sorrow and regret. "Margaret," he said, his voice breaking, "I never wanted to hurt you. I thought I was protecting you, protecting us, by keeping Eleanor a secret. But now I see how wrong I was." I looked at him, tears streaming down my face. "John, I needed to know. I needed to understand why there was always this distance, this shadow in our marriage. I loved you with all my heart, but I always felt like there was a part of you I could never reach." He reached out to take my hand, his grip firm yet gentle. "I'm so sorry, Margaret. I never wanted you to feel that way. Eleanor was a part of my past that I couldn't let go of, but it wasn't because I didn't love you. I loved you more than I can ever express." The raw honesty in his words cut through the fog of my anger and confusion. We sat there, holding hands, the silence between us filled with the echoes of our shared history. It was clear that we both needed time to reflect on our lives, to understand how we had come to this point and where we would go from here. After the confrontation, we decided that a period of separation was necessary. We needed space to process our emotions and to figure out what our future held. Emily, with the help of Sarah, began to accept that we needed to find our own paths, while she also made important decisions about her relationship with Mark. She had been our rock, our constant source of support, and now it was time for her to focus on her own happiness. Michael, on the other hand, found solace in continuing Eleanor's work. He felt a deep connection to his grandmother, a sense of duty to honor her legacy. As he delved deeper into her research, he discovered the brilliance and passion that had driven her. It gave him peace to know that he was carrying forward her dreams, ensuring that her contributions to science would not be forgotten. Weeks turned into months, and in that time, John and I began to heal. We communicated through letters and occasional phone calls, each conversation bringing us closer to a place of understanding and forgiveness. The pain of the past was still there, but it no longer defined us. We were learning to move forward, to rebuild our relationship on a foundation of honesty and mutual respect. One crisp autumn afternoon, John and I arranged to meet at the park where we had spent so many happy moments together. The trees were ablaze with color, their leaves a tapestry of reds, oranges, and golds. As I approached the park bench where John was waiting, my heart swelled with a mix of emotions. There he was, the man I had loved for so many years, looking both familiar and somehow changed. We sat down together, the silence comfortable and filled with unspoken understanding. "John," I began, my voice soft, "I've had a lot of time to think about us, about everything that's happened." He nodded, his eyes meeting mine with a tenderness that made my heart ache. "So have I, Margaret. And I've realized that, despite everything, I still love you. I always have." A tear slipped down my cheek as I smiled at him. "Maybe we don't have all the answers, but I know that I still love you too. And I believe that we can find a way to move forward together." He reached out and took my hand, his touch warm and reassuring. "Margaret, I promise you, I'll do whatever it takes to make this right. We've been through so much, and I believe we can get through this too." As we sat there, hand in hand, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The future was uncertain, but I knew that we had the strength to face it together. Our journey was far from over, and though it would be filled with challenges, we were ready to face them side by side. In the days that followed, John and I worked on rebuilding our relationship. We attended counseling sessions where we learned to communicate more openly and honestly. We revisited old memories, finding joy in the moments we had shared and healing in the ones that had caused pain. It was a slow process, but with each step, we grew closer, our bond stronger than ever. Emily, meanwhile, found clarity in her own life. She made the difficult decision to support Mark's move, but they agreed to take things one step at a time, ensuring that their relationship was built on a foundation of mutual respect and understanding. Sarah's guidance had been invaluable, helping Emily to navigate the complexities of love and duty. Michael continued to make strides in Eleanor's research, his work gaining recognition in scientific circles. He felt a profound sense of fulfillment, knowing that he was honoring his grandmother's legacy and contributing to the field she had been so passionate about. His dedication and hard work were a testament to the love and respect he had for her. As the seasons changed, John and I found ourselves in a new phase of our lives. We had faced our demons, confronted the shadows of the past, and emerged stronger for it. Our love had been tested, but it had endured. We had learned that the key to a lasting relationship was not in hiding our secrets, but in facing them together, with honesty and compassion. One evening, as we sat on our porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of pink and gold, I turned to John and said, "I'm grateful for this second chance, for the opportunity to rebuild what we have." He smiled, his eyes reflecting the warmth of the setting sun. "So am I, Margaret. We've been through a lot, but I believe that the best is yet to come." Our story was a testament to the power of love and forgiveness, a reminder that even in the face of secrets and conflicts, it is possible to find a way forward. The journey had been long and difficult, but it had brought us to a place of understanding and peace. We had learned that love is not about perfection, but about acceptance, resilience, and the willingness to grow together. As we sat there, hand in hand, I felt a deep sense of contentment. Our future was still unwritten, but I knew that whatever it held, we would face it together, with love and respect. And in that moment, I realized that our love story was not just about the past, but about the endless possibilities of the future.